Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Stumptown. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I love at the beginning we have Dex on a judge show, which I thought was interesting. Also, I love the fact that the judge is played by Mike Epps. That was pretty dope. But I almost kind of halfway expected, like, I don't know why the beginning of the episode made me think like we were going to be in a situation where like the entire episode was going to be the court case, and basically it's like, okay, there's this case and then she's going to like rehash like what the whole case was actually. But I thought that was going to be it, but it turned out to just be like a cat, and the lady being like, because it's like, oh, I gave you a cat that looks like your cat, but the lady was saying like it wasn't her cat. But it's like, even the judge was like, how many three-legged cats are running around the place? So, and she's like, I don't know what she could have done, almost suggesting like Dex found a cat that looked somewhat like her cat and chopped its leg off or something like that. That's almost what she was implying. But yeah, interestingly enough though, Dex ended up winning the money she was owed. But then it's really interesting because it's like, because obviously this is a more extreme version. Obviously you see, like, you're like, yeah, that looks very much like an actual court show. But it's so weird because you get to see the production behind it. It's like, whoa. Like, how many times has she been told about this? And it's like, oh, she's been told 100 times. It's like, you see the production behind it, and it's weird. Because I've never seen the behind-the-scenes stuff, judge shows. I know, I've seen, there's been behind the scenes stuff. I've just never seen it myself. I'll be blunt with you. I'm not the biggest into courtroom shows. It's just, I don't know. They're just really not my, like, all reality TV just really isn't my thing. Regardless, moving on. But Judge, Antonio Price needs her help because it's like his brother, Lateris, is, it's like, well, he did some shady stuff. Basically what sold their mom's house, and their mom's kind of out of all, like, that house and the money and stuff like that, because he's that type of person constantly, he's doing something. He's always, kind of got these get rich quick type of schemes, and he wants, Dex help with it. And obviously, and I like the parallels that they created for this, because while, these are two brothers who had their issues, she's kind of having a situation with her own brother right now, because, especially consider, it's interesting because it's vice versa, where it's like in Antonio's case, he's the little brother, whereas in Dex's case, she's the older sibling. So it's an interesting element how the story kind of complements itself, because obviously Dex ends up running into Latarius at it looked like it was a strip joint, and I do appreciate Dex giving the stripper some money and being like, probably like, hey, you're doing some good work. So I don't know, it's just like a little thing, and I'm like, oh, I don't know why. I don't know. I was like, oh yeah, like that's kind of neat that you tip her, because it's like, oh, I think you're like, oh, you're killing it, lady. Go on with your bad stuff type of situation. But I think it's also interesting because like Dex and Latarius are kind of similar in the fact is that they are, well, obviously Dex has her gambling issues. So I think, Latarius, who's kind of the screw up, she kind of gets it as kind of the screw up sibling. So I didn't even think about that too much while I was watching it. It's not until I was sat here to thought about like, all right, that's really interesting in that. So obviously he's being hunted because he owes people money. In particular, he's trying to avoid Mr. Chin because it's like, oh, he came up with this whole plan of like getting these animals. They're going to poop. They eat certain things and they poop like certain coffee beans or something like that. It was kind of part of his scheme, but he's planning on bouncing. And obviously Dex, she wants to call and walk away. She could. She's legally, like, entitled to just walk away because she did the job she was hired for. But she's like, your brother might be in trouble, so hey, I want to help out. But obviously Antonio was just kind of like, nah, my bro, he's always into something. So the fact of the matter is, you basically in the long run be like, oh, you gotta be careful, you might get screwed over. But then it turns into the thing of like, wait, there's blood at this place. It's like, I don't know, I think something's up. But Antonio being like, man, I don't know. Plus his ransom note talking about $5 million. I think my brother's so desperate. And I love her being like, wait, $5? Why would they think you have $5 million? He's like, I made like 31 million. She's like, wait, what? Huh? What? Like Dex couldn't believe it. Cause wasn't there a thing like, it might not even been last year, it's like maybe even 2018, wasn't there a thing that came out at some point that was saying like Judge Judy made bank, like she was like the most paid person in Hollywood or something? I was like, yo, I mean, Judge Judy's been doing it for a very long time, ever since I was a kid. But yeah, that's kind of crazy, just realizing how much like TV judges like make money. I mean, to be fair, reality TV, whether it's my thing or not, there's a lot of money in reality TV. But and it's like he doesn't want to pay it because he still thinks this is his brother's scheme and everything, until an ear shows up and it's like, oh, so now it's kind of, and even then it just showing you how complicated the relationship. He's like, maybe my bro went so far as to cut his own ear off, and even Dex is like, really? No, there's more to this. And it's like, so the choice is, what are you going to do now? Are we going to pay the $5 million, or are we going to go to the cops? But for Deck, for him, it's like, please, that's what I hired you for. Please save my brother. It's like this, because despite everything, because his initial thought was like, all right, like my bro, he's going to screw me over in some shape or form. But obviously if something happened to him, my mom would be devastated. So it's like, look after him. But now it's like, his brother instincts is like, no, that's my bro. Like you got, so I did like the interaction with Chen. That got super scary at one point. It's like, oh, looking for Latarius. And he was like, and pulled out the bat. His son or nephew went over there and locked the door real quick. It was like, yo, this got scary real quick. And he's got the bat. He's like, oh, do you like snakes and stuff like that? It's all about respect. And it's like he's Antonio Price's judge, Antonio. And then they quote the show and stuff like, what was it? Like, reality checks don't bounce or something like that. And it's just kind of like they're fans and stuff like that. But then it's like, oh, if you run into Notarius, tell him Chen hasn't forgotten. I'm like, I was like, ooh, that sounded very like. So I was kind of thinking, Chen must have nothing to do with it. But then when they asked that dude, the person who dropped off the ear and everything smelled like hamster stuff. So it's like, okay, Dex figured out, yep, Chen is involved. And I love they go to save Latarius. And I even love the fact that he isn't missing an ear. And part of, even I was like, if he's not missing an ear, was this part of, like, is this some, because like, especially because Antonio was kind of like, the fact is, be careful, he'll screw you over and stuff like that. And I'm like, is this going to be a super long con? Is that actually how this is going to end? But it's like, no, it was legit. Chen just ended up finding an ear. He's like, don't worry, the person was dead. I'm like, that doesn't make it any better. But I love the whole situation. And Chen went like, this black bastard. And then I love that Latarius is the only one that was like, whoa, what'd you call me? And then Antonio was like, dude, calm down. He's literally got a gun. He's like, he ain't going to shoot nobody. I've seen this guy, blah, 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 blah. Like, they were just running his mouth off. It's like, he ain't going to shoot me. And literally pulled the trigger. Luckily, Antonio got in front of the way. Dex and Chen struggle over the gun. And like I said, his son or nephew or whatever got shot in the leg. I'm like, this is almost a weirdly comical scene, especially because Dex is fighting Chen. And it's like, to be fair, Chen's got some moves. It's actually kind of crazy when you look at it, because you're like, she's kind of beating up an older man when you actually think about it. But to be fair, he's trying to kill everybody, so it's okay. But I thought that was such a neat element. I'm obviously like, luckily Antonio and his brother were able to kind of mend the fences. It's like, because his brother's trying to apologize, and even Dex is reading between us. I think he's trying to say he's sorry, but it's like, because for him, he talks about the fact is of like, you remember that time your bike got stolen, I went there to get it, I got the crap beat on me, we're even. It's just, for him, it's like that very emotional stuff, like saying what's really on his heart, he can't really do. But Antonio's offering him is like, hey man, what you leave all this life behind. You know what you can do? You can move in with me, just get you a good job. And the fact is, like, I know you're capable of so much more. Because for him, he felt bad because he's like, maybe my brother went down this path because all I did was protect him. Maybe made him feel like he wasn't good enough. And it's like, and for him, it's like, I love you not just because you are my brother. It's because I just legitimately love you. You're funny. You're very smart. And you're capable. Like, I know what you're capable of. Or I can pay the money to get the animals that kind of got taken at customs, get them released. And it's like, you have to make that choice. And I was like, come on, please tell me you're going to take your brother's offer. But he takes the animals instead. And I'm like, damn. And even Dex is kind of like bummed to hear that too. And I was almost thinking like, I was like, maybe last second he's going to like get the animals free because, send them back where they belong. I'll take you up on your offer. Although he's going to kind of do both. But it's like, no, for him, it's like, I can't be in your shadow forever, bro. Like, I love you. He's like, I love you too. He's like, let mom know I love her as well. So it's just that thing of like this. I get you want to help me out, bro. But for him, it's like, I think it's that complicated thing of like, you are my younger brother. Like, I don't want to be in your shadow. But also it's like, who am I as the older brother to be looking like going like, you shouldn't have to kind of pick me up all the time. Like I need to kind of do my own thing. It's like, it's a little bit of pride, I think, but also just because it's like, you want to kind of show that like you can do things kind of on your own, so and like I'm kind of bummed it kind of ended that way. You just hope like Latarius doesn't end up in too many complicated situations going forward, but it was just like I said, it was like this heart warming moment, that it was very bittersweet, and obviously what that means for Dex's, situation with Ansel, because like Ansel wants to move out, but Dex kept being like, oh, you're actually serious about that. It's like, yeah, she kept pushing the conversation. She even brings up Gray, but Gray's like, oh, it's a good idea. She's like, wait, what do you mean it's good? It's like, well, yeah, he's not a kid. He's actually an adult. But when the time comes, Dex is still trying to bargain with him. It's like, you know what, okay, so what we'll do is I'll give you more space. You can do whatever you want. The fact of the matter is, and we'll revisit this in like 6 months. And he's like, no, now. He's like, I'm ready. She's like, you're not ready. The thing is, and you could tell in that conversation, so like, it's not that Ansel's not ready. You're not ready to let go. And it's like, you can kind of understand, because I'm sure with Dex, it's a combination of many different things. Like every time she turns around, if she doesn't keep people she cares about in close proximity, I think she gets worried that for one, this is her baby brother. Like if something happened to him, like he's her world. Because he's kind of one of the few things in life that she can always hold on. Like despite her issues and just her general life, nothing comes second to Ansel, nothing comes first. Ansel always comes first is what I'm trying to say. I butchered that. Everything comes second to Ansel is what was trying to say, but before, like I said, I butchered that. But I thought that was, and I think, my thought was because of the whole Benny situation, I think that kind of plays a role in like I said, keep the people you love very close, because like there are very few people that Dex is very close to. Despite the complicated thing, which we'll get to soon enough, she's pretty close to Hoffman, she's close to Gray, and Ansel, those are the three people in her life. But obviously Ansel, that's her heart and soul. Like if anything ever happened to him because he was on his own. But what it really comes down to is because for Dex, her brother, it's kind of very, like I said, the very similar situation of like, she's kind of a mess, and Ansel kind of keeps her together. So she's scared of Ansel's out of my reach. Like I'll have nothing to kind of keep me grounded. Like who am I without Ansel around? Like I said, it's very reflective of Antonio and his brother's relationship. And I thought that, and it's that heartwarming moment of him giving her that little keychain that says adult. And she's like, I'll never, I'm letting you get your freedom and everything. But the fact of the matter is, I'm always going to need you. And he's like, I know. And I'm like, as someone who has a brother who, has a, older sister. Well, not just one. I have two older sisters. I don't know. It's just one of those heartwarming sibling moments. You're like, you kind of want to, in those moments, you kind of want to hug your own sibling, to let them know, like, like I said, I always kind of throw those little things in there. Always, remember to tell the people that you love them, just let them know how important you are. Myself as well, we all have a tendency of taking that for granted, I always got to include that. But I thought that was just such a sweet, heartwarming moment too, so I love how that's all going down. But getting back to the whole complicated thing between Dex and Hoffman, seems like things are kind of a little woo there. Like, could we never, because it's not until the end of the episode we actually find out what happened between Hoffman and Dex. And it was almost a moment of like something about to happen, but Dex being an adult was like, I'm not going to let, like, because she, like, for her, it's like, I got to figure me out first. I got to just do this alone before I go into any relationships, because she doesn't want to screw things up. Because it's like, if I go into a relationship, it's that thing of like, how can you love someone else if you're not ready to love yourself? And Dex, not really in the most loving condition of herself, so that's why I think it's, neat. And I think that's the whole thing of like adulting. And I think you see it's a little, she's kind of, lonely at the end, but I think for her, she feels good because it's like, before would have jumped over that opportunity with Hoffman just to feel something that's like, no, I got to figure myself out before I even figure any of that out, So I thought that was kind of a neat element to it. But I love Hoffman's story being the situation of the captain. His boss tells him, is like, yo, I got these, oh man, great, these tickets to this game, I need you to take my wife. And it's a whole thing because Kavanaugh, she signed him up for it. And he's like, what is this about? She's like, this is payback from when I went to the safari or whatever. I came back and my car was filled with animal crackers. So it's like, oh, you got jokes, I got jokes too. It becomes less funny because I love that the wife was, and it was that awkward thing. He's filling up gas. She's like, yeah, my husband is not great at everything. And she's giving Hoffman those eyes, and he's looking like, what? No. He's like, no. You can tell he's in his brain. He's like, no. This ain't about to happen. You're my boss's boss's wife? Nah. Your husband can make my life a living. Nah, I'm good. I'm gonna keep my job. But she ends up getting carjacked. I was thinking immediately, I was like, oh man, is she about to be kidnapped? I'm like, oh, that's about to turn into something. But it's like, no. And I love that Kavanaugh's pissed. She's like, you really screwed the pooch here. He's like, it was literally your fault. You threw me under the bus in this situation. She was like, I was trying to, get payback. I was trying to be in the fun. She's like, you know what? I'm not doing jokes anymore. This didn't work out for me. So jokes are done. I'm not doing any more jokes. I love that being her stance. And so Hoffman kind of has to handle this. And lo and behold, he has no connections in the automobile theft, department of, things, because he hasn't worked cases like this in a while. Well, he knows someone in that, realm, and it's like, lo and behold, who's he turned to? Gray, which even Gray's got a complicated relationship with Dex, which I thought, it's like, okay, so where do we go from here? And it's kind of like, no, let's bury the hatchet, let's drink, move on. It's that whole thing of kind of like, yeah, let's pretend everything, like, because Gray's not admitting how he feels, because the fact is he was going to show up at Dex's place, but he doesn't want to admit he still has feelings for Dex, because what was said last episode is 100% true. Like, no one can really penetrate Gray's life because no one will ever know him as well as Dex does. They have a history, and there's something there that neither one of them. It's not one-sided. Dex definitely feels it too, and she's nervous to kind of like, because that's why she wanted things to kind of be where they are, the way they are, and they have been. But obviously, I think they still both struggle. Just neither one of them is willing to admit that, they're kind of struggling with that. So I thought that was kind of, but then like Hoffman coming to Gray, and it's kind of like, oh, basically because of the whole Kane situation, you kind of owe me. So this ain't even a favor. You kind of have to do this. And it's like, all right, fine. And so them working together, I even love them staking out. And it's like, all right. So it's like, oh, so it's okay if you want to talk, get on the phone with Dex. He's like, nah, we're good. Everything's okay. He's like, I mean, I get it. It's like, Dex is kind of like a special lady. The fact is, it's like, sometimes you just kind of have to, she moves out, she kind of dances to her own beat. Sometimes you have to move on, and you're like, yep. And then there's a good, 10 seconds of silence. So it turns into that thing of like, they say that, but both of them even though they're talking about moving on, they're still in Dex's, orbit. Well, or rather, I think it's more so Dex orbits them or they orbit Dex. I think it's more so them orbiting Dex. But it's like, it's a thing of like, they're both saying moving on, but neither one of them can. Because even later on, Hoffman is thinking about Dex and Dex is thinking about him. But the same thing applies with the whole... Well, no, I think it was just purely Dex that was thinking about it. But obviously, it's a whole thing of like, Gray's probably thinking about it too. But I did like that Hoffman ended up taking down that guy. The guy swung on Hoffman, and Hoffman kind of took him down. I was like, yo. And even Gray was like, I didn't think you had it in. It's like, well, now you know. I think for him, it's like he was probably a little frustrated considering everything. Probably that conversation with Gray probably didn't make things any better, so that probably made him more frustrated. So that was an interesting element. So it's like, hey, take down that guy, to take down, and all his buddies, but it turns out it's a small part of something bigger. Now, what that necessarily entails, we don't know. But now Hoffman's like, okay, so great, I need you to go undercover. Gray's like, no, I'm not doing that. It's like, oh, once again, you think you have a choice. It's like, once again, that's a bit dickish of Hoffman. I'm so curious to see, because if it was because of the complicated nature between him and Dex, I feel like if him and Dex were in a better place, like I said, they're good, but it's kind of good with quotes around it. I think if they were in a better place, he wouldn't do that because he wouldn't be putting her friend at risk. But because of that, he's just kind of looking like, me and Dex are good. So, I mean, it's a means to an end. But let's not forget, your last CI got killed because you kind of pushed him into an investigation. Interestingly enough, an investigation into Kane. And obviously, that's a whole thing with Gray, which I'm sure we're not done with that whole Kane thing. I'm sure that's still going to circle back around. And whatever it is that Gray is about to get mixed up in, I'm sure Kane has his hand in it. And so it's probably going to turn into a complicated thing later on where Dex is like, why did you put someone that I care about in danger? You shouldn't have done this, Hoffman. But that's the thing, like, I think he gets so kind of caught up in everything, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting because I almost thought I was like, oh, Gray and Hoffman, they're taking a step forward. I mean, granted, they didn't really talk or anything, but it's like, oh, they took a step forward. Oh, this is them taking a step back. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see where things kind of go, from there on that front. But also, like, the whole Dex situation of like, kind of being on her own now. It's kind of, you would think it'd kind of be the opposite. Well, because now Ansel's living with Gray, so that's pretty good. At least until it full settles down and just he can fully be on his own, because obviously he's trying to get his own place. But until that settles, he wants to kind of be away from Dex because, like, I think for Ansel, it's like I've been in my comfort zone. It's like I need to spread my wings, and obviously, like I said, it's just Dex is very overprotective. She loves her brother. Obviously, it's obvious. It all comes from love. Like she just wants to protect her brother, and just but it's kind of like I need to give him the opportunity to kind of spread his wings. That's all you can do. Like when it's time for them to kind of fly the coop, let them fly the coop. It's like whatever steps they make, you kind of have to let them make him. So like I said, it was more so it's partially for Ansel, but I think more so than anything, it's for herself. The main reason why she's handled the Ansel situation the way she has. So I guess it's gonna be interesting to see how she handles this whole being an adult thing going forward, what that kind of really looks like for her as she tries to piece herself together. What that means in the long run with this whole Hoffman and Gray situation, it's going to be really interesting to see. But I'm very interested to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it, good day, and goodbye.